Aloha, I'm Cullen Hayashida, and this is the Kupuna Connections television series brought to you by Kapi'olani Community College. We broadcast on a weekly basis, and we're glad that you are here to hear about the various things that we can share with you from experts in our community for family caregivers, very practical information. Today we are very fortunate to have a faculty and an expert physical therapist who is very knowledgeable about fall prevention, and this will be our discussion for today. So welcome, Ann Lowe.
Welcome.
And maybe we could start out with you sharing a little bit about who you are.
Okay, I'm a physical therapist of many years, more than I care to mention. I'm originally from London, England. I came here in the 70s, late 70s, and never left. I worked at Strub Hospital for many years as a supervisor in the physical therapy department until my children were born. Once my children were born, I needed something a little more flexible, and KCC and teaching worked for that. I teach in the physical therapist assistant program.
Yes. Okay. So, of course, you know, the college has quite an array of programs having to do with healthcare and the health sciences, and the physical therapy assistant program is just one of many, and you know, including our Kupuna Education Center and our nursing department as well. This question with regards to falls, of course, is something that we often hear about with regards to older adults. This is sometimes people say it's an epidemic, that there's just too many that are occurring. Maybe we could start out with some general questions and statistics about, you know, what's happening with regards to falls in Hawaii and elsewhere as far as seniors are concerned.
Okay. I think because we're an aging population, we're going to have an epidemic for a while until we figure out how to handle it and how to help our elders not fall. 1 in 3 people over 65 are going to have a fall in their lifetime.
1 in 3?
1 in 3. Out of those 1 in 3, 1 in 2 of them is going to have a serious medical condition from their fall. So it's a big problem. Not only is the falls a problem, but you've got lots of other things that go along with falls as far as independence after the fall and getting back to where they were before. And many of our seniors don't get back to where they were before.
Yes. We hear of people that have fallen. In fact, I think that if we were to talk to our friends and neighbors, I think that almost all of us know of a story that someone has fallen within our circle of friends and neighbors and relatives. And obviously, the longer that you're on the ground without help, then a small problem becomes a massive medical disaster of sorts. Yeah. So this is something that we hear about all the time. It seems to be a growing concern, and we're very worried about this. Is there any information that you can share with regards to the costs associated with falls?
The CDC is the repository of all information.
And CDC stands for?
The Center of Disease Control.
Okay.
And it's a governmental organization that keeps track of all these trends. And they are projecting that in 2020, the cost of falls for America is going to be $55 billion.
Billion, wow.
Right now, the cost per fall, on an average, is about $18,000 per fall, not taking into account any of the things that are going to occur afterwards or any of the doctor's fees. That's just the hospital, getting them home,
yes,
and giving them assistive devices.
Yes.
But we're going to have a lot of long-term chronic problems too, which haven't been even factored into those costs.
I don't think people realize, you know, if you go to the emergency room just for a visit, you have to, and if you're not using, let's say, insurance, and you have to pay out of pocket, you have to anticipate at least $1,000,
exactly,
right?
Ambulance costs are about $300 per ride.
Per ride.
hospital rooms for 3 or 4 days are $5,000 at a time.
Yeah,
So
sure.
this is not cheap.
No, yeah. So $3,000 for a day, perhaps in a hospital room, perhaps like you say even higher than that when you start adding all of the diagnostic tests and
Exactly.
other services that come with that. Yeah. So it becomes quite a chunk of change. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So this is serious stuff in terms of trying to avoid that unnecessary.
Because it's putting a big burden on the healthcare program,
yeah.
and it's not going to get any better unless we do something about it.
So is there one segment of the population you think that is much more affected by falls in comparison to other
Well,
populations?
funnily enough, it's young men.
Young men.
But their falls are usually due to some kind of fooling around and accidental falls and those kinds of things, and that provides a big mortality rate. When you look at the rest of the population, it's our seniors that are at risk, obviously. Not only do they fall more often, but they have more serious results from their falls. Osteoporosis can be a big problem for the elderly, but not only the elderly, we also have some of the younger clients who also have osteoporosis and fall.
Okay. Let's just give our viewers a little bit of an explanation as to what do we mean by osteoporosis?
Osteoporosis is a thinning of the bones, and it occurs mainly in females after menopause, but can also be in men. I have had a 45-year-old male who fell off his chair and broke his wrist. He had osteoporosis that he didn't know about. It's a thinning of the bones that's very hard to combat. There are medications and treatments out there, but it's a long-term process, and you very rarely gain back the bone. You can slow down the process, but you can't really.
As we get older, then the
bones
bone
get thinner and more brittle,
yeah,
and they break more easily.
Yeah,
so we don't bounce like we used to.
So the bone itself is not just one solid piece of mass, but it's actually hollow inside.
It gets like chalk.
Yeah.
And you can break a piece of chalk very easily, and that's how the bones get.
Yeah, you hear of people that actually break their bones and then fall rather than falling and breaking their bones.
Right,
sometimes.
and just recently, even with these special medications that women are taking, there have been spontaneous fractures of the femur with people just walking.
From medications?
From taking the osteoporosis medication.
Really?
So that's a new thing we have to look out for. Very unusual, quite rare, but it does happen.
Okay.
And then the other things that deteriorate, of course, your eyesight. Now you don't see as well, and so you may trip on things that you don't see. Your strength gets less. Your flexibility gets less. As you get older, we lose muscle power. And we also lose coordination and balance. And those things can be a big problem.
So, Ann, tell me a little bit about some of the personal risk factors that we can sort of be aware of and work on preventing.
Okay. I think the biggest thing is that as we get older, all kinds of systems in our body don't work quite so well.
Sure.
And so we need to get medical checkups. And I think one of the most important things is to get a checkup regularly. Every 3 to 6 months if you have something like diabetes or blood pressure problems or heart conditions, but at least once a year is good to go to your physician and just get yourself checked out. Another thing that's very important is medications. Seniors tend to get lots of different medications, and maybe from lots of different doctors who aren't necessarily talking to each other. And so you can get abnormal interactions between these medications that will be detrimental to the senior. And we know that seniors don't react the same way to medications as younger people.
That's right.
Depending on how they're taking it, it may increase the effect of the medication or decrease it. Sometimes taking supplements with your medications also changes how the medications work. So it's very important that somebody...
Even ointments, I suppose.
Even ointments included.
Eye drops, they're all part of medications.
They're all part of medications. And I think it's really important that one person gets a look at all your medications. So I suggest to my patients that they do a brown bag checkup. They put all their medication bottles in a brown bag and take it either to their pharmacist, if they have a good pharmacist that they work with, or to their primary physician, and let them take a look at it and see if there are any interactions that might be detrimental. You can also go online, and there are many sites where you can check up. You can print in your medications, and they will do a comparison for you and find out if there are any things that look like they might be a problem, and then you can take that to your physician and discuss that too.
Now, sometimes family and your aunt or uncle will say, take this herbal, pill or some kind of lotion or some kind of a special tea and that sort of thing, and maybe some of our viewers might be a little embarrassed about sharing that's family secret, with the physician. What do you say about that?
Well, unfortunately, supplements and herbal things are not controlled by the Food and Drug Administration,
Yes.
so we really don't necessarily know what's in them. So it is very important that you do share that information and don't take Auntie's special tea that you don't know where she got it from in Chinatown, because it might have something in it that's not good for you.
Yes.
And so we need to keep an eye on that.
Okay. But minimally, we should at least take that opportunity, share this with a physician or a pharmacist if they can spare the time, and perhaps give us some additional information along that line.
Right. Other medical things you need to check up is your eyesight, because we all know our eyes change as we get older. So once yearly, go and have an eye check and upgrade your prescription for your glasses. We know that after 65, you need about 60% more light to be able to define things of the same color and be able to see the edge of the step and do all these kinds of things. So we know our eyesight is not very good. Hearing also is another thing that needs to be checked, because we don't realize how much we rely on listening to things happening around us to tune us into what's going on. So ear techs as well are very important.
And I guess as we get older, you hear of people getting dizzy or losing their balance. I've heard of my aunt getting out of bed quickly and then falling.
It's very important.
Do things maybe a little slower.
Yes. Unfortunately, as we age, our blood vessels don't react quite so quickly when we stand up and all the blood pools in our feet. So getting up quickly from a chair or getting up quickly from a bed is not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
You need to sit and you need to move your feet up and down to get the blood pumping. So if you just do some foot pumps up and down, that will help the blood go back to your heart. Coordination is not as good.
Yes.
Strength is not as good, flexibility is not as good. All these things need to be addressed if they are causing a problem.
Okay. So these are important personal risk factors that we have some degree of control over, perhaps, right?
And we certainly should go and ask for help if we need it.
Yes, by all means. Now, let's talk about the environmental risk factors, things that perhaps are outside of our bodies, and that can also affect our ability to fall. What are some of these things?
Well, generally the majority of people fall in their homes. So basically clearing out the clutter is one of the most important things. I go to a lot of elderly homes and they've got a lot of stuff that they've collected over the years, and they have little pathways to get from the bedroom to the bathroom. That kind of clutter is not good. You need to have a nice clear space. You need to be able to see where you're going.
Yes, I've heard of not trailer homes, but trail homes.
Yes, and I've been to a few of those, I have to admit. Get rid of wires and television cords and all those kinds of things that are on the ground. Another thing that's important is a lot of elderly people have pets, and pets are very good for your blood pressure, they're very good for your general well-being, but unfortunately they tend to get in the way sometimes. I have a cat who I swear wants to kill me because she always runs across the front of my feet when I'm walking. And so make sure your pets are in control, not running around in front of you, because you can trip over them very easily.
Yes.
Or when you get up in the night, you don't see them and you trip over them. And so that can be a problem too. The majorities of falls in the home happen in the bathroom. It definitely is the place where most of the falls occur.
Now we've got some photos here, I guess, that we could share. Can you kind of walk us through some of these?
I certainly can. One of the places a lot of people fall is getting on and off the toilet, and very often you need some kind of grab bars that you can help yourself get up and down. Another thing that's helpful with toilets is if you can get a raised toilet seat, which lifts up the height of the seat and you don't have to go quite so far. Second thing that's a problem in a bathroom is always the shower. or the tub. Very often people will fall in the shower or the tub. This shower has a couple of nice things, but it's also missing a couple of things. It has nice grab rails, which are helpful. It also has a shower that can be brought down and you can do a hand shower, but it doesn't have non-slip surface on the bottom, and it's very important to have a non-slip surface on the floor of the shower. Sometimes you also need a shower chair, and this next picture shows you that. It's a bench which goes from the outside of the bath into the tub. The person never has to step over the edge of the tub. They just sit on it, swing their legs in and slide over, and usually shower sitting on the tub bench. It's not good for elderly people to get into the bottom of the tub because they usually slip when they're getting up out of the tub. And again, it's got a handheld shower that can be brought down and the person can shower sitting down. The other problem in the tub there is if you have to close your eyes to wash your hair, which we all do, closing your eyes affects your balance.
Orientation too, I suppose.
You can get very dizzy when you close your eyes. So having a bath bench like that is very helpful under those situations. And usually we can test that very easily by having somebody tell us whether if they look up at a light bulb they get dizzy. That's usually a sign they're going to get dizzy when they close their eyes as well. Okay.
I've seen this one, I heard of this one instance where this gentleman was washing his hair, with, lathered with lots of soap. His eyes were closed, and I guess he started turning and wanted to reach and rest his hand against the wall of the shower, but it was the shower curtain, so he just tripped.
He lost his balance. You
balance,
lose your coordination if you close your eyes when you get older.
Right,
It's just one of the senses we use to keep ourselves up straight.
Yes.
And so that can be very dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Good point.
Kitchens are another area that can be a problem, not because they're necessarily inherently dangerous, but people tend to collect a lot of stuff and they have things in high shelves.
Okay, yes.
And then they want to climb on a stool to get it, and that's not good for an elderly person. So everything should be kind of brought down into an area that's just above or below the waistline. That way they won't have to climb, and of course also the floors get wet sometimes, and those need to be very definitely cleaned up very quickly. Okay. Another area is the living room.
Well, you got this.
Oh, we've got stairs. Okay. Another area is stairs. We were talking about being able to distinguish the difference between one color and something of the same color. And to get over that, not only do you need very good light on your stairs, but you also need to mark the edges of the stairs with a different color. So this has non-slip strips on it, which mark the edge of the steps so that person can identify one step from another. If the carpet is the same color all the way down, they have a really hard time. Obviously, you need rails on a stairs, and it's important that elderlies hold on to the rails.
Yes.
Do not try and carry things up and down the stairs. Somebody else can do that for you, but you shouldn't be carrying baskets of laundry up and down stairs and not holding onto the rails. That's a recipe for disaster.
Well, the color right at the edge of the steps makes a lot of sense. It's certainly so much easier to see where you're going.
And those are non-slip. They are little gritty things, so they're non-slip. The other thing is to make sure that your foot is on the whole steps, and that's very important. So some people tread on the edge.
And then
other things outside the house.
This is like a sidewalk here, I guess.
This is a sidewalk. I don't know anywhere in Hawaii where we have sidewalks that are level and even. So you've got to really watch what you're doing, and so the senior really needs to watch where they're putting their feet. It's very important that you do that. The other thing I notice with seniors is that they very often don't watch the traffic lights very well and the stop signs, and they're walking against the stop signs and they're not paying attention to the traffic around them.
Thinking that they're invulnerable.
Invulnerable, and I've seen so many people almost get hit crossing the road.
It
takes them a little longer to cross the road, so they can't go when the hand is blinking. They got to wait until the next time, and sometimes they're a little impatient. I always say I don't cross the road until I can see the whites of their eyes in the car. So I'm looking at the person. So being aware outside is a personal responsibility, and I think that's important.
Yes. A lot of people like to exercise and walk around the neighborhood, but I guess, like you said, you've got to be extra careful when you walk. And there's a lot of shuffling in your feet, I guess, when we're walking as we get older too. And making certain that you lift your knees up, I guess.
Yeah.
Huh? All these
Wearing
things.
light-colored clothes at
Light-colored
night.
clothes,
Just
okay.
assume that nobody sees you,
Yes.
and
yes.
then take the precautions for yourself.
Good.
Very
good.
important.
Okay.
Okay. That in the house, the other thing we haven't talked about is the living room, and that's basically clearing the clutter.
Okay.
Make sure that you have nice open spaces. You're not treading on things or over things, and you'll be
Yes.
fine.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Wow. These are so many good tips that you have. Now, there are times when I guess we can take all of these suggestions and very important tips that relate to our bodies, ourselves, eyesight and exercise and making certain that we get up properly without not too quickly and all of these other things with regards to our home environment, grab bars, night lights and that sort of thing. But it's still possible that we'll still fall. Question then is, what do we do if we do fall? How do we get help?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to have a good network of people who keep an eye on you. It can be family, if family is close by, but a lot of people don't have family anymore. They're either retired to a different state or their family's moved away.
Right.
Know your neighbors. Have your neighbors or your family check on you once a day. It can be an actual physical visit, or it could be a phone call at a certain time in the day where everybody checks on mom or checks on grandma. And I think if that's in place, people don't tend to lie for days and days because it has happened. There was a recent episode of an elderly lady, she was 70, very independent, wanted to live by herself, and her daughter couldn't contact her for a couple of days. Eventually broke down the door to find her mother in the tub. Mother had fallen in the tub, didn't have any way of getting out, couldn't call anybody, and was severely dehydrated. Fortunately, she hadn't broken anything, but had to go into hospital because of the dehydration and the inability to walk. She had some physical therapy in the hospital and returned home with some assistance, but her daughter said she was never the same. Not only was she frail, and it took her a long time to recover, but she'd also lost her independence, and that she had been fiercely independent before that, and wouldn't go out of the house.
Loss of confidence again.
Loss of confidence, wouldn't walk without a walker when she really could, and that was the most distressing thing for the daughter.
I see.
And that happens, I think, with a lot of our
A
seniors.
lot of people, yeah. Okay. Resources. If people needed to get more information about all of this and more perhaps, what do they do? Where can they call? Where can they check?
One of the easiest places to check is the Centers for Disease Control. It's online. The families can help the senior find it. It has lots of really nice resources. It has pamphlets on how to check your house out, how to prevent falls, how to do exercises. You can also go to the Kupuna Center, Education Center at KCC, which has a lot of classes.
Yes.
And generally families are able to find resources online just by Googling fall prevention. And there's a lot of information out there.
Okay. Yes, and we, as Ann Lowe has mentioned, the Kapi'olani Community College's Kupuna Education Center has information online, or you can just call us, and we have classes for families to train families about how to do fall prevention, as well as how to learn about elder care a little more. There's at the end of this particular segment, you'll see a list of contacts, both with the City and County of Honolulu. We've got numbers not only for the Office on Aging here, but also for the other counties as well. And so these are all resources that's available. Yeah.
HMSA also provides classes for fall prevention and for strengthening. And they are free to members, so that's another resource.
Now, we're just about out of time right now, so how about one last advice for our viewers? If one takeaway, what would you suggest?
I think the most important thing is to be aware of your surroundings and aware of your own health.
Okay.
Be aware, and your body's telling you whether it's in good shape or whether it needs some help. And I think you need to be very aware. Take responsibility. Okay.
So this is about all the time that we have right now, and I want to thank Ann Lowe from Kapi'olani Community Colleges, an expert in fall prevention. And we are very appreciative of you being with us today, watching our program this Saturday morning. And we look forward to seeing you again next week at the same time. Aloha.